All right. Welcome to the inaugural. If you're listening to this right now, it's the inaugural episode of the Roast It Yourself podcast, brought to you by Coffee Bean Corral and Current Crop Roasting Shop in New Orleans.
Yes.
And if you hear some dogs in the background, we are a very dog-friendly operation.
Right.
But our dogs don't sound very friendly right now.
There's only 7 here today.
There's only 7. We have a pack.
Yeah.
This show is kind of the brainchild of us going back and forth and answering questions. We get a lot of questions from customers about coffee and about roasting, and we answer them individually via email. And we were like, why don't we make a podcast out of this and answer them more globally, and provide an outreach if people are asking this question. If a few of them are, probably a lot more have the question, just haven't asked.
Right.
So these are going to be short episodes. We're thinking 8 to 10 minutes, and we're going to answer one question an episode. So you can kind of get a little bit of extra coffee roasting and general knowledge too, and go on your day. We don't want to take up all your time. So with that said, I am Stephen Burnett, and I am with Coffee Bean Corral in Jackson, Mississippi. And we are a international supplier of green coffee from a half pound all the way up to 50 pounds and more. So for just about anybody that wants to get into the business or get into the hobby.
Yeah. I'm Catherine Mansell. I'm the director of Current Crop Roasting Shop in New Orleans, and I'm also a certified Q Arabica grader.
That's right. And we'll talk more about some of that later. But the first question we've got, and this question for this episode, is, hi there, do you test your green beans for mycotoxins? Thank you. You're welcome.
This is a question that comes in all the time here in Jackson and in New Orleans.
You get it a lot, and this is a very succinct asking of the question.
Right.
But there's a lot of these questions.
Yeah, very much so. So anybody who is in the raw coffee, green coffee industry is very aware of mycotoxins, very aware of testing for that. Here at Coffee Bean Corral and in Current Crop in New Orleans, every week we do moisture content checks. So the beans come through, we kind of go through it one by one and take notes, because anytime the coffee is less than 10% or over 12% moisture content, there's an issue. Over 12% has the potential to produce mold, and then under 10% is the crop is slowly fading away, fading out and getting a bit drier.
We're losing it. Yeah.
Right, yeah. So these are things that we constantly have to be aware of. So not only are we testing it here, the process of how that works on the farm, all the coffee is picked, processed, and then dried out. And it's not bagged up until the moisture content of those beans is in between 10 and 12%. Then it's bagged up and put in the container and shipped over our way. So every step along that supply chain, the moisture content is checked.
And I would say too that the way the coffee is stored, a lot of times, we'll send coffee to people, and sometimes they store it in buckets outside in the shed, and sometimes they store it in a refrigerator or freezer or something like that. And all of those improper storing practices, if you're not careful, those can affect the moisture content as well and cause problems. So we recommend storing the coffee in a cool, dry place, and you can check that kind of stuff. And the other thing too is if you have a real concern about molds, a lot of times you can taste it when you brew it up.
Oh, yeah.
If there's mold in that coffee, you're not going to just go, I'm going to add more creamer.
Yeah.
You'll know. But if you are concerned, you can roast some and you can have it tested in a lab. It's a very specific test, but you can do that and see if there's any problems over there. So we want you to be aware of that. So we do test and maintain the moisture content in a safe range so that those kinds of molds and things like that don't develop. But yeah, so that's our answer to the question. Thanks for the question.
Yeah.
If you have your own question about coffee, about green coffee, roasting coffee, even brewing coffee. I mean, this is the Roast It Yourself podcast, and roasting is like right in the middle of all the coffee things, right? And so if you're roasting your own coffee or would like to, send a question in to us. And our email address is going to be questions at, was it very creative? Questions at riypod.com.
Yeah.
Roastityourselfpod.com, riypod.com.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's our question for the day. Catherine, you mentioned Current Crop Roasting Shop, and I've never heard of that. What is Current Crop Roasting Shop?
We opened about a year ago on Magazine Street in New Orleans, and it's really a place to learn how to roast your own coffee in person. So the shop has 3 different roasting stations with some of our fresh roast air roasters that we all love. And we've got about 78 different beans. So you come in, find a bean you want to try, and we'll teach you how to roast it in the shop. Once you learn how to use the roaster, they're free to use. That's
awesome. And when would be a great time to visit Current Crop?
Definitely this summer. This summer during June the 14th and 15th, Coffee Fest will be in New Orleans.
Awesome.
That'll be a fun event just to go to Coffee Fest in general and then to come by the shop while you're in town.
That's awesome. And what kind of things are on the docket for Coffee Fest? How are we involved in that?
We'll have a booth. So we're exhibiting at Coffee Fest, and then I will be on the Business 101 panel and the Roast Magazine Roasters Forum panel as well.
That is awesome. And before we leave you today, what are we drinking today here? We've got a couple of mugs of some delicious coffee. What do we have here?
Rwanda Hingakawa Women's Association.
Women's Association. All right.
Yeah.
What do you think of this coffee?
I love it. And I was fighting for it to be able to bring it back last year. Unfortunately, the supply was bought by this really large coffee company, so nobody else got to get any of the Hingakawa last year, but this year we got it back. This is one of my favorite coffees. I'm a big person, or a big tasting point for me is Rwanda, Tanzania, Burundi, and the Congo, all sort of like right next to each other in Africa. That's my favorite spot for
And what
coffee.
kind of tasting notes are you getting out of this coffee?
It's a little bit fruity. It's kind of citrusy.
Yeah.
There's still a nice little chocolate note in there too, so the acidity's not overpowering like it could be in an African coffee. That's
awesome. And we will put the link to that coffee in the show notes, because I'm not going to try and spell Hingakawa while recording right now verbally. But it's a great coffee. This is roasted, a little Full City Plus right here? Yeah. And I think it works really well, even if you go light with it. If you go dark with it, I think it's got a lot to offer. So Rwanda Hingakawa. Well, thank you guys for listening and watching today, those of you that did. And we hope, if you have any questions, of course, just shoot them off to questions@riypod.com, and we'll feature you coming forward. All right. Y'all have a great one.
Thanks.
Bye.